All right. Hello, everybody. This is our first time, actually, in years. Let me see. This is starting to aggravate me. I wonder if it's the box doing that. Let me put the box down and see if that doesn't change the focus. I don't know what's going on here. Anyway, as I was saying, this is the first time we've switched to Saturday in several years. I think the last time we were doing Saturdays, I think it was back when I was visiting my mom and she was well. So that was years ago. Boy, this is aggravating me. This only happens during the chat, during the Q and A. And I don't understand why it's doing that. Let me see if I can. Anyway, I'll go to the website real quick. You know what? Now that I have these devices, I don't need the box here anyway during the chat. I keep calling it a chat because that's what we call it here at home. It's like I'm with you guys. All right, well, this is irritating. So I don't have any pre-asked questions. Anybody have any questions right now? This is a good time to get them in while I'm trying to figure out what's going on with this. I'm going to go to my camera settings real quick. So, have you guys been checking out the videos that I've been posting? Lots of videos lately. I'm trying to do one a day. Have they been coming up? Have you seen them? Some of them are with me and the bass player. And then there's new ones I'm posting with my Celebrations duet book and stuff like that. I posted yesterday a video of my unaccompanied trumpet solo that's dedicated to Michael Ham. Let me tell you guys about Michael Ham. Michael Ham was my band director in junior high. When I was in junior high, I lived in Hawaii. And he played trumpet. I think he told me he used to sub with the Honolulu Symphony and stuff like that. So he knew what he was doing. And he was a good band director. And the band room, let me see if I stand back. The band room was my sanctuary. That was where I went to stay out of all the nonsense that was going on at school. Okay, you know what? Let me just look at this real quick because I can't do this. Um, what I'm doing is I'm looking for my camera controls. There's got to be an app, huh? Oh, there's a camera app. There we go. But that probably just takes pictures. That's not going to... Can't start your camera. You see, that's what I'm saying. Where do I go for the settings for the camera? Hello, Karen. Karen asks if my piece is in 6/8. Can I take it in 6? You can take it in 6 for practicing. There's nothing wrong with practicing something in 6. If you try, and you know what? Um, let's talk about 6/8, right? Because there's two kinds of 6/8. Actually, there's more than that, but generally speaking, pieces are either in 2 or they're in 6 and 6/8. Um, you have to know which one is which when you're practicing the piece. If it's like a pirate song, bum ba bum ba ba da ba bum ba bum ba bum ba bum ba bum ba ba da ba ba da ba ba da ba 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 da ba bum, right? If it's like that, or a beer drinking song or something like that, it's meant to be with 3 subdivisions per beat. That's why we write 6/8. Almost, I shouldn't say that. A lot of the time signatures with 8 on the bottom have what we call compound time signature. Compound. So there's compound and there's simple. Simple is what we have with 2/4, where each beat has 2 subdivisions: up beat, down beat, up beat, down beat, up beat, down beat. Okay. Karen says it says allegro, and I don't think it means that in 2. Okay, so that's possible. So the tempo is not really what establishes. You can have allegro. Allegro just means fast, right? So you can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Now nobody would conduct like that, but yeah. So it really does matter. Come down to um, the style of the piece, right? And you know what? If here's the biggest difference between 6/8 and 6 and 6/8 and 2. 6/8 and 6 can be emphasis on 1, 3, and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. Now you could say, well, that's just 3, 4. But all time signatures have strong and weak beats. That is a legitimate way to write a time signature that has strong, weak, medium, weak, medium, weak. Yes, you could say that's 3, 4, but not necessarily. It depends on what else is going on around it. So that's possible. But typically, if it says allegro, it would normally say, oh, allegretto. I'm sorry, I said allegro, allegretto. Now that's, yeah, it really comes down to the piece of music, what style it's in, and stuff like that. All right, so I'm going to try rubbing this one more time. The only time that happens is in these Q and A sessions. I don't want to go get a new webcam. just because of this, but I don't know what to do at this point. There should be a control panel I can get to the camera itself. Yeah, that's just aggravating. Oh, let me. Karen says it's in the small book. Let me go look. If that's the etude we've been working on, I think it is, isn't it? If that's the etude we've been working on, then that is in 6. It's the way I see that etude. It's strong beat, weak beat, weak beat, medium beat, weak beat, weak beat. If that's the etude we've been working on. I don't see my book, but my room is a mess right now. Okay. This is very, very aggravating. Extremely aggravating. There we are. Thank you. Sorry about that. That took too long to fix. All right, let's get down to business. Okay. Yes, so that's the pattern that I see. I see it as strong, weak, weak, medium, weak, weak, strong, weak, weak, medium, weak, weak. You know, when it comes to that kind of thing, I have an entirely different perspective on time signatures than other people that I know. Because to other people, it's almost as if the time signature has no human meaning, that it's just mathematical. And I can't see it that way. I don't see much of anything in music that way. It's not just numbers. So if you have, you know what a good example of that is, if you have odd meter, 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2. There's people that will beam it with 3/8 notes, 3/8 notes, then 2/8 notes and 2/8 notes, and put a time signature of 4/4. Well, I'm sorry, that's not 4/4. Now they'll write it that way, and you have to, as a musician, be prepared to see that and play that. But as a composer, if you were in taking lessons from me, I would tell you that that's incorrect. That your time signature should communicate as much about the music as the notes do, as the rhythms do. The time signature takes those rhythms and gives you strong beats and weak beats in 4/4 to play something. Now, I'm not talking about one measure. If you have the whole piece goes da 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 da, right? If you have that, because that's 6, oh, that's 10. I'm sorry, I'm doing the wrong one. That's 10/4. I mean 10/8, which would be 5/4. It's incorrect to write it as 5/4. It should be, I'm sorry, I did the wrong one. It's 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2. That's 6 plus 2 is 8, which gives you 4/4. So strike what I just said with the numbers 4/4 or 6/8 plus a beat. No, that should be 8/8. At least with 8/8, it establishes that you've got the possibility of a um, odd meter thing going on in there, because that really is odd meter. Now, that's not to be confused with like the calypso style, boom, 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 boom. That's not to be confused with that. That's not in odd meter. And that's what I'm trying to say is the meter itself, the time signature is the numbers. Time signature is the numbers 2 4 3 4 4 4 6 8 5 8 9 8. Those are the numbers. The meter is the feel that you, another word for meter that we use all the time in jazz or in the pop music is groove. Groove and meter are the same thing. It's just that meter is the word that we use in classical music. Meter is the groove of the classical piece. Now here's the thing, and I'm not mentioning this as a criticism of other people who write music. I'm not doing that. I'm just telling you how I write. But there's a lot of music out there that has no groove. A lot of classical music that has no groove. One thing that you will always find in my music, and this is because of all that time playing in the salsa bands, when you play in salsa, you learn about how groove works, because nothing in salsa is written outside of that groove. They call it enclave, and everything and it's the same thing with funk. It's the same thing with all music. It's just that with salsa, it's more complex. That groove is more complex. And so you have to spend time actually studying it and feeling it and all that stuff. Okay? But yes, classical music that has no groove, I like to say that the meter is the heartbeat of the music. If there is no meter, the song is dead. Let's say that again. Meter is the heartbeat of the music. If there is no meter, then the song is dead. I'll say it one more time because it's so important. Meter is, and once again, we're talking about groove. Groove and meter is the heartbeat of the music. And without that groove, without that meter, the music is dead. Okay, how does that apply? We're talking about it right now in the context of a composition. If you don't feel a meter or a groove while you're writing, there will not be a meter or a groove. You can write whatever numbers you want. You can write whatever numbers you want on that time signature, and it means nothing. If it means nothing to you because you didn't feel a meter in the first place when you wrote the music, then it can't possibly mean anything to the people who are reading your music. Okay? It can't, if you did not have a sense of meter, a feeling for the groove when you first wrote the song, the composition, then nobody else can do that for you. Now we're not talking about songwriting. I shouldn't use the word song. We're talking about compositions where you write out all the notes for the people. Um, Songwriting is a whole different thing. Um, Now, how does that apply to us as players? I like what Sam Trimble told me in my lessons in El Paso. He said that when we perform on stage, if there was somebody out there writing down the notes and rhythms that we played, they should be able to, that's what we should strive for, is for them to be able to write down exactly what's on the page. Now, how do we do that when it comes to time signature? How do they know the difference between 3/4 and 6/8? How do they know the difference between 4/4 and an odd meter 8/8 that has the same number of beats in the measure? How do they know? The way they're going to know is for you to play that. So when you're playing a different meter, you have to put emphasis on the strong beats and remove emphasis from beats that are not supposed to have emphasis. It is quite often when I'll be listening to something, a student will play an etude or a solo or something for me. And I'm not making this up. Even though I might have been playing that etude or whatever for 20 years of my life, maybe 40 years of my life, I can listen to them play it and have no clue what they're playing. It's so unrecognizable. It's like the joke, you put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable, right? That doesn't sound right. That's almost unrecognizable. Okay? Um, you can change the accents and make the piece entirely wrong. Now, why do most people change the accents improperly? Because they weren't feeling the meter in the first place, and what got the emphasis was just what came natural to, in their effort. I don't mean natural musically speaking, natural in their efforts as trumpet players to get that note. So there's the high note and they clobber the high note, there's your accent. What's more common, instead of improper accents, what's actually more common is when you've got uh, no accents whatsoever, and the piece just goes like there's no life in it at all. We're looking for those ups and downs that give us a heartbeat. And a lot of people, when they play, because they don't understand the importance of meter, they were just taught quarter notes are one beat, eighth notes are two beats. And a lot of people weren't taught that the first beat of the measure has a greater strength than the rest of the measure. So yes, when it comes to to meter. To me, it's a lot more than now. We have to take into consideration as performers that maybe the guy who wrote the music doesn't see it the way I see it. I think they used to see it this way in the old days. In the 20th century, I think they abandoned that part of the music for something more academic, something more mathematical, so that all that mattered was. In fact, I remember my teacher told me one time that one of the reasons you can use the wrong time signature on purpose is to create anxiety in the musicians. If you create anxiety in the musicians, that anxiety will be felt in the music. That was his philosophy. So you could do wrong accidentals, wrong, what I call wrong. They wouldn't call them wrong, just more difficult and more frustrating for the musicians. Now, I do believe, even though this is not something that's taught, even though that's not something that people actually think about, so don't forget, I've been writing music for the people I play with. So every time I write a piece, and also me personally, I play my own music, right? And I get to see the results of what happens when you put the wrong uh, key signature, when you put the wrong time signature for that groove. I get to see the way people play, how it affects their confidence levels, how it affects their phrasing. You know, along the same lines, right? The the double bars never made sense to me. The old Russian stuff had double bars every 10 measures, regardless of where the actual music stopped and started. And wow, that's tough. Counting measures in that, playing proper phrasing in that, that's just tough. If your double bars correspond with the phrasing, everybody in the ensemble can instinctively, subconsciously see where the phrasing is. And that helps the whole ensemble to play with the proper phrasing. You don't have to say, oh, you didn't phrase here. It's all automatic. The people don't even know it's automatic, right? That's how automatic it is. Those double bars are important. Where you put them, how you put them. Any other questions? I love talking about time signatures, as you can tell. Like I said, the heartbeat of the music, not the numbers, not not that quote unquote fraction. That's not that. It's not that at all. It's that the groove. So the groove has to have strong beats, weak beats, and then beyond that, the groove has to tell you how the beat is divided. So, for example, in swing, in jazz, that upbeat is not, we call it straight, it's not straight. The upbeat is lagging behind. For the groove to be right, now it's still, we can't write that in numeric form, so we use 4/4 for that. and you can't use, uh, people tried to in the past, 12/8. You just can't notate swing. The best way is make eighth notes and put the word swing on there, but the groove is the swing. It's not an exact triplet, so uh, you can't do triplets, you can't do 9/8, 12/8, you can't do that. None of that accurately portrays what that groove is. So you have 4/4, you put the word swing on there. And people who know swing can do that. Yeah, that's a big deal to me. Um, and so, part of where I got this from, I used to do a lot of walking. I still walk, but I used to do like this has been since I was a child. I used to do these like super long walks, 12 miles, 20 miles. It was my favorite thing to do. And a lot of times I'd be walking, and the rhythm of the walk would create a groove, and I would start in my head, start improvising over that groove. Sometimes it was classical, sometimes it was jazz, sometimes it was something entirely different. Our our activities that we have in our daily life have grooves to them, have meter. And so it's been many times you guys know about these inspirations that I get, right? These are just melodies that pop into my head or music ideas that pop into my head. Almost always I'm doing something else at the time. So I'll be doing something like raking leaves or cutting the grass or um, taking out the garbage. I've gotten inspiration taking the garbage out. How do I know that? When I Nowadays when I write my inspirations down, I write down what I was doing when it happened, and you'd be surprised how many different activities God has used to put music in my head. But there's times when I sit down to write what I hear in my head, and I'll be surprised. I'll write it out, and I'll have this like question mark in my head. What? Huh? And then I'll say, "Oh, that's in 7/8. Oh, that's in 5/8. Oh, that's in 8/8." So there's people that try to write in these odd time signatures, but they do it mathematically, they do it mechanically. Me, when I write in an odd meter like that, it's because the seed that I started when I was writing was an odd meter seed. So let me show you this. I write all my inspirations down and I put them in this drawer. Here's how many I have right now. This is about 10 years worth. This set is the most recent. And let's see if I have any odd meters that come up on the most recent. Let's take a look. Yes, kind of. Yes, well here's one. I did a little tribute to a friend of mine who I've been working with for a long time. I made a little tribute to him on Facebook. telling everybody how much of a difference that guy had made in my music career and stuff like that. And then he called me on the phone to chat with me about that afterwards. I put the phone down, and as I'm walking into the house, here's the melody that came to my head. Bum 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 ba dum ba bum 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 ba dum ba dum bum bum bum. They almost always come as a drone. What is a drone? A drone is like a 2, 4, 6, 8 measure piece that repeats over and over again. In this case, it's a 2-measure drone. Bum 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 ba dum ba bum 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 bum. And I have this written down as 6/8, followed by 5/8. One measure of 6/8, one measure of 5/8. And in the 6/8 measure, I've got 4 duplets. Ding ding bum 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 ba dum bum 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 ba dum bum. So when I write a piece for that, and at least the entire section, if not the whole piece, will be based on that drone. I'll come up with a melody based on that drone. I'll come up with a bass line based on that drone. But to me, that is the meter for that composition. You see that? That's actually a very complicated rhythm. A meter. Let's not call it a rhythm. You can get even more complicated rhythms out of that meter. If I write a piece based on that, first of all, it has to be an advanced piece because most people can't play that, right? So that has to be for advanced players. But my point is, the reason I brought it up is I didn't sit there and with my intellectual mind say, wouldn't it be cool to have a 6/8, 5/8 back and forth, and oh wow, I have this other intellectual idea. Let's cut each of the beats in the 6/8 in half. You know how much intellect it would take to come up with that meter just mathematically. In fact, I don't think it's possible. And then even worse, if you did come up with something like that mathematically, just because you had some harebrained idea, if you came up with something like that mathematically, what would you do with it? Because this is the heartbeat. This is the heartbeat. So if it was a mathematical idea, what do you build on? It's just like, that's how life is. You have that heartbeat. That's what determines what stays alive and what dies. And yes, I'm saying this. There's a lot of dead music out there. People that composed here. I had a great idea. Let's write the great idea down. And it's dead music. The people, no, don't get me wrong. The people who listen to it are interested, and because that's something they never heard before. Well, of course, because it's not a thing, right? It's not a thing. Any other questions? I'm just ranting today. I'm going to say it one more time. Time signature is the numbers. The meter is the heartbeat of the music. You know, I had some compliments on those videos that I made with me and the bass player. That's David Craig. There were people telling me that I must have some really awesome time. Well, not me, but me and David must have some really awesome time to be able to do this without a drummer. But really, that meter is the heartbeat of the music. What else is there? Once you get the meter right, almost nothing else matters. I mean, yes, you have to have skill. You have to play the right notes. Um, kind of. You have to make people think you're playing the right notes. That's what it really is. There's no really such thing in jazz as right notes. But um, you need to play in a way that people think you're playing the right notes. That's what's important. Hello, James. James says, I think the song Take 5 is a good example of where you have to feel the meter rather than the 5/4 time signature. That's correct. So that first rhythm that I clapped out was the Take 5 one. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 ba-dum ba-dum bum bum ba-dum ba-dum bum bum ba-bum ba-bum bum bum ba-bum ba-bum. So in this case it's um eighth note quarter, eighth note quarter. Ba-bum ba-bum bum bum ba-bum. Now add to that the fact that they're swinging. That's why you can't notate it any other way besides 5/4, because to break it down to the eighth note level would be to deny the swing. So in that case, it has to be written 5/4. But if you play that song just going ta 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 ta, that's not the same thing. Another song that fits in that category of his is Rondo a la Turk. I love that. 2 2 2 3 2 2 2 3 2 2. I've written a few pieces with that. I love that feel. So yeah, I think that's one thing that made his music stand out. Um, I'm trying to remember his name now. Um, has a B in it. Anyway, I'm terrible. I've always been terrible with names. Brubeck, Dave Brubeck. I think that's one of the things that he understood, intellectually understood about what was the reality of the music. And you know, that's what happens. You see people, you know who else gets it right? Is the old Rush recordings. Bam, 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 ba, bam, bam, ba, bam, 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 right? Um, Now, I don't know how educated they were, but they're using odd meter times, and it sounds like that's the heartbeat. It doesn't sound like some of this terrible, terrible odd meter classical music that has no heartbeat. Whether the I hope that makes sense what I'm saying. And here's what I'm here to me, that heartbeat thing. If you have that as your foundation, the meter has to be the foundation. We never, let me emphasize how important this is. We never compose. You don't even put your pencil on the paper until you have a meter. You don't play the first note until you feel the meter. You don't put the baton down for that first note until you feel the meter. It's not just a pattern. That is the heartbeat. That's, you know how I have my physical trumpet pyramid and the air is on the bottom? When it comes to music overall, that bottom is the meter. Everything else in music has to be built on the groove, on the meter. If you have no groove, you've got nothing to start with. And it's just as true for us as trumpet players. We never play, we never ever play a piece of music without feeling that groove, feeling that meter before we start. Fortunately, most people do this automatically. They don't even know they're doing it. You almost have to have it trained out of you by people who are well intending. You almost have to have meter trained out of you because it's natural to life. It's natural to play with meter. So it's something eh, every time. So for me, every time I pick up, and some people say, well, you're playing that really, really, really rubato. Where's the meter in that? Well, here it is. Ba dee dee da dee dee da da dee da da dee dee da da da. Right? There is meter there. There are strong beats and weak beats. There is a subdivision of the beat. Just because it slows down and becomes an irregular tempo does not mean that it doesn't have meter. And you know what? There's a lot of people don't like the old ways. They used to teach the counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and right? Um, what are you learning when you do that? You're learning meter. Now, there's no counting system that covers every meter. That said, there's no counting system with numbers that covers every meter, but there are percussion teachers, hand percussion teachers, that teach syllable systems where you can actually count out rhythms that have a metric pulse to them. I'm not voiced in all of that, but I am aware that that exists. Those are people who get it. Those are music teachers who have a deep understanding of what meter is. So yeah, I don't think in our Western society today that intellectually or verbally, I don't think we make enough importance out of the meter. And that's why there's another uh, very strong anti-culture where the meter is absent. And so now what do I mean by strong anti-culture? If you go back far enough, all the music had meter in it. In the 20th century, the music started to have more mathematical leanings. So they started producing composers and performers and conductors and teachers that lean more in that direction. That And after a while, it's been enough time now that this is why I call it culture, is the metric stuff is now gone. So yeah, and it's a shame because we'd have a lot better music today if people hadn't lost that. It's more common now in jazz and funk and stuff like that. These people actually understand. Jazz people understand meter. Funk people understand meter. Rap, you can't. I know it sounds strange saying rappers understand meter, but rappers, the whole thing is meter. The groove is the meter. Hello, Blazer. Blazer asks, what trumpet flugelhorn do I use? Um, my main workhorse for the trumpet is a Bach 72 with a reverse pipe large bore. My main flugelhorn right now is a Quinon. My understanding from all the reading I've done is that Quinon is before the fire, so it's uh, the kind of instrument people cherish. But yes, I've got a Quinon, and my main trumpet is a Bach 72. I do have a Pudgy. I'm looking at it now, and yes, I've got a Yamaha Piccolo. 30 years ago, I had dreams of having a whole arsenal, the E flat, the C trumpet. But I got bogged down because I don't want to buy an E flat till I've got a C. And the C trumpet I want is probably $5,000 or $6,000 right now. So, and I don't know. We've talked about that. Uh, Karen was here last time we talked about it. She says I should just go get the trumpet. Uh, the problem is I don't think that I would use it. And I'm not spending that kind of money on something that's not going to get used. So anyway, any other questions? Oh, no. Hey, that's a great cup. My cup was landing on its side. Oh, we lost the thing again. All right. Any other questions? I've been talking about meter for like 40 minutes or longer. Any other questions? Now's the time. I think it's going to take a while till people get used to this new time, this new day. This is the day it's got to be for me. Um, I've opened up Fridays for not. It's not a regular lesson day. That's not what I mean. But we've got so many lessons now, so many students that we need a makeup day, and so that's what we're looking at, making more times on Friday available. Any other questions? Maybe we'll stop early if we don't have any questions. Okay. Well, God bless you guys. Always nice to see you. Always nice to hang out. And we will see you next time. Hopefully this won't happen with the camera again. Um, have a great weekend and see you on. We might not have one next Saturday. I have a gig next Saturday, but we'll see. I'll let everybody know. Okay. See ya.